Pilate sentenced Jesus to be executed by crucifixion. He had him turned over to Roman soldiers. The Roman soldiers took Jesus to a back room, surrounded him. They put on his head a crown made out of thorns. They put a stick in his hands, a robe that was purplish colored, and they began to mock him and say, "Hail, King of the Jews." They took the stick and beat him and tortured him. And then they let him out to be crucified. They took Jesus through some narrow city streets, and there's a huge crowd of people. There were two other people who had been sentenced to be crucified, two criminals. And as they were going through the streets in kind of a death march, there was women following behind, mourning, weeping, and crying. As they were exiting towards the city, a man was coming in from the countryside. His name was Simon. He was from North Africa. A soldier grabbed him and made him carry Jesus' cross the rest of the way for him. And so Simon was following behind Jesus, and they went out of the city walls, and they went out to an area called the Skull. There, they nailed Jesus to a cross. They also nailed two other criminals there, and they lifted Jesus up, and they put him and the cross in its place. And then Jesus prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." They nailed above Jesus and a sign, the crime he had committed. Said, "This is Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." Some of the leaders didn't like that, and they went to Pilate, the governor, and said, "Don't put King of the Jews." Pilate said, "What I've written, I've written." People would walk by on the city streets, and they would look up to Jesus, and they would mock him, make fun of him. And someone said, "If you're really the Son of God, why don't you come down from there?" The religious leaders came by, and they were like, "Oh, he could save others, but he can't save himself. If you're really the Son of God, where's your God at now?" One of the criminals on the side of Jesus also mocked him and said, "If you're really the Messiah, why don't you save yourself and save us too?" The other criminal looked at Jesus and said, looked at the criminal and said, "Don't you fear God? We're here dying because we deserve it, but this man is innocent." He looked at Jesus and said, "Do you remember me when you enter your kingdom?" Jesus looked at the thief and said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Looking down below, the soldiers were dividing up Jesus' clothes, and one of his garments was seamless and couldn't be torn apart. And so they rolled dice and gambled for it. Jesus, seeing his mother and also John, the disciple he cared about greatly, said to them, "Mary, look to John as your son. John, please take care of my mother." Around noon, the skies got totally dark. Couldn't see the sun anywhere. For 3 hours, darkness was over the land. Around 3 o'clock, Jesus prayed, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which translated is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Jesus, fulfilling all the ancient prophecies, even in his death, said, "I'm thirsty." Roman soldier took a stick and put a sponge on it, and he dipped it in a jar of wine that was nearby, and he lifted it up, put it near Jesus' mouth. He was able to taste the wine. And Jesus said, "It is finished." And then he prayed, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." He breathed his last breath and died. Ground began to shake. There was an earthquake. Boulders were splitting in two. not far away in the city temple, the veil guarding the holy place split into two. One of the soldiers, looking up, said, "Surely this is the Son of God." Some other soldiers came. The next day was a holy day, and to speed up the deaths of the people, they began to break the legs of those hanging on the cross so they couldn't lift themselves up to breathe. And they broke the first criminal's legs, and they came and they broke the other criminal's legs. And then they came to Jesus and they saw he was already dead. But another soldier, just to be sure, took a spear and punctured it into Jesus' side, and out came blood and water mixed together, verifying he was fully dead. Joseph from Arimathea had went to Pilate and got permission to bury Jesus in his very own tomb. He came with Nicodemus, and they came and they took Jesus down from the cross. They prepared his body with spices, and then they wrapped him in cloth, and they wrapped his whole body and prepared him for his burial. They took him out not too far away in a garden. There was a tomb that had been cut out of a rock wall, and they took Jesus inside and laid his body to rest. Some women had been following along, including Mary, and they knew this was the tomb where Jesus was being buried. When they came out and rolled the stone in front, some soldiers came, because back in the city, some religious leaders came to Pilate and said, before he died, he said that on the third day he would rise again. And we don't want any of his disciples stealing his body, creating more problems. So Pilate gave permission for these soldiers to come, and they put a seal on the tomb saying, by Roman authority, no one can break the seal. And they put soldiers standing there guarding Jesus' tomb where he had been buried.